Today we are going to look at angle relationships. And so there's two different concepts. We're going to look at this first part, and then part two will have two other concepts. So the first concept is vertical angles. So I copied this down. It says when two lines intersect, two pairs of opposite angles are called vertical angles. So are formed, and vertical angles are congruent, which means equal. So when you see the word congruent, just think of the word equal. So the two numbers, two angles, are exactly the same. So vertical angles are opposite angles, and so they only share one thing in common. They share a vertex. And so that's kind of where they get that name from, vertical angles, from this common vertex. So for instance, angle ABC. Now when you read an angle, the middle letter represents where that vertex is. So angle ABC. So they're talking about this one right here, this angle right here. And then sometimes they'll draw like a little shape around there, like an arc. And I'll put a little dash through this. And when I put this same arc with that same dash, it means it's congruent or equal. And so they're saying ABC is congruent to DBF. DBF. So notice B is the center again, so they're talking about these two angles being at the vertex, or these 2 points is the vertex. So what they're saying, these are vertical angles, and so these angles are equivalent. And if you look at it, whenever you draw an X or a cross, the two opposite angles, so this angle here and this angle here, are always going to be the same. It's always a truth statement. And so we take a look at the other angle that is also vertical, and it's ABD. So again, B is the center. Notice that B is the center, so that's the vertex. So this angle right here is congruent to CBF. Notice again, B is in the center, so CBF. And so these two angles, ones that put the two dashes through the arcs, are congruent, and those are called vertical angles. Notice they're opposite one another. They only share a vertex in common. Well, the other concept is adjacent. Adjacent means next to. And if your neighbor is adjacent to you, basically, the person whose property borders yours is next to you. And so adjacent means next to. And so they're right next to each other. Adjacent angles have a common side and vertex. So angle PQR, Q is the center, so there's the center right there. PQR is adjacent to PQS. So PQS, Q is in the center again, so that's the vertex. So notice how they're right next to each other. They kind of share this boundary. It's kind of like having a duplex house. They share a common wall. Well, these two angles share a common side. And so that's what we're looking at. And so what they do is they ask you a few questions in relation to those two different concepts. So name a pair of adjacent angles when we're talking about this one, this figure here. So we've got lots of adjacent angles. Notice how angle 1 here, this angle right in here, has an adjacent side to angle 2. It's this line that comes out at an angle. So we'd say angle 1 is and angle 2. Those are adjacent angles. And we'd also have another one here. We have quite a few. Angle 2 and angle 3 share this vertical line right here. So we'll write down angle 2 and angle 3 are also adjacent. Well, angle 3 and 4 share this horizontal line going off to the left. So angle 3 and angle 4 are also adjacent. And we have angle 4 and 5. They share the vertical line going down here. So angle 4 and angle 5 are adjacent. And we also have angle 5 and angle 1. See, angle 5 and 1 share this horizontal line going off to the right. So I'll write that one up here. Angle 5 and angle 1. So there's lots of answers for this one. Now this one here, it just says name the vertical angles. Well, there's not so many vertical angles. You look at this and you see where you make a X is where you're going to see vertical angles. But when we look at it, angle 4 is not vertical to 2, because if you draw this line through here, if I extend this line here, you see angle 4 is split. So you have to have a line going all the way through to see where the vertical angles are. So angle 4 does not have a vertical angle. Angle 1 plus angle 2, the sum of those angles, is vertical to angle 4. but not one specific angle. So let's take a look at another one then. We have angle 5 and 3. You see how these form an X. If you kind of ignore the 2 and the 1 and the 4 here, see along this line right here and along this line, they form an X. And these two angles, this one right here and this one right here, are vertical. See, they only share that vertex. That's the only thing they share. And those two are the same. So those are our only vertical angles here. Angle 3 and we have angle 5. So those are vertical angles. Let's take a look at another one here. Identify the type of angle of each angle pair shown. Well, these are not. These two angles, VWX and XWY, share a side. So when they have a common side and vertex, that means we're dealing with adjacent angles. So I would say angle VWX, so VWX, and we'll go with XWY, so angle XWY, are adjacent. They're adjacent angles because they share that common vertex right here at W, and they share that common line, that wall. Well, here they're talking about, see that little arc right here? They're saying, what about these two angles? JKN. Angle JKN. And again, I know they're talking about that because of the little arc they're showing here. And we have LKM. Angle LKM. Those are called vertical angles. And they're vertical because they end up sharing that common vertex. And that's all they share. The lines form an X, so always look for that. Look for the X being formed, and they share that common vertex. So those are called vertical angles. Well, those are vertical and adjacent angles. We're going to take a look at complementary and supplementary in part 2, so check that out.